You should be getting here. House of pick down on the street. On sunrise of bottom of the diet party. Cause I think you can if you told me you're thinking of
What's up, everybody?
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the show. Week 8 in a row. I think I can stop counting now.
That is why I hate you.
Maybe until we get to 10.
Okay, at 10, I will stop counting and acting like we're doing something special by delivering content every week as we are supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I got something I want to ask you about. This came up this morning, right? I wake up to a picture from my wife, and it says it's about the library book my daughter checked out. So she's really into graphic novels. Is your daughter into graphic novels, or
Yes.
she? Okay.
She just started.
My daughter's really into graphic novels. There's like so many. Oh, that's right, because your daughter was reading one of the books my daughter had been reading, and I was like, oh, she had just read it. Anyway, so the picture is a page from the book, and it's two young girls walking by a Santa Claus in a mall. So it's a mall Santa, and he says, I forgot to ask what you want for Christmas. And the girl says, I want you, Santa. And the Santa says, you don't know how much I want you, and grabs the girl's ass. And then the caption says, I was so shocked. The attention from the fake Santa hadn't felt good. It felt bad, scary, unwanted. And then like a bunch of, will he come after me? Is he going to hurt me? And then it's like they say, oh, gross, sick, grody, what a scuzz. So anyway, she sends this to me saying, I don't really like that this is inappropriate. I feel like this is very inappropriate. And she mentions that there's alcohol and attempts at date rape in the book as well.
Mm-hmm.
But she's more hung up on the fact that the Santa thing is in there because there's elementary kids.
I was waiting for it.
That still believe in Santa and it's a real thing. So I had to laugh that was the thing that she focused on. And I get it. But I do. Go ahead.
For me, having Santa, if you're a child, having anybody touch you inappropriately is terrifying and awful.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're anybody if somebody touches you in a bad way, but a child especially, because your brain is not all there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Almost literally.
Correct.
But if you believe in Santa, Santa always sees you. Santa can get into your house. That is so, like, when you said that and then you read that passage, that was like, that is legitimately scary.
That's really creepy,
That's
isn't
a little
it?
too much.
But in the passage, she says she knows it's a fake mall Santa.
Yes, but the person reading it probably doesn't.
Right.
Like, what age range is that book supposed to be? Because maybe it was in like young, teen to, like, I can get like maybe preteen to teen reading that.
Yeah, it's definitely,
but not someone our kids' age.
It's definitely not something appropriate for our kids' age in the 8 to 10, I think, range at all.
Because I know introducing those mature topics and dealing with them, from a vulnerable person's eyes is perfectly fine.
Sure.
But some people aren't ready for that yet.
I think alcohol and date rape are definitely...
Yeah, that's off the table.
She told me she was going to email the librarian, and like, it was really hard for me because in the back of my head, I'm thinking of all those parents that are like, get these genderqueer books out of my fucking school.
But
I think she's kind of right on this, even though her focus was on the Santa and not on the date rape and the alcohol and the groping so much.
I feel like the book belongs in a library, maybe not an elementary school library. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yeah. Middle school library, I think it
shouldn't be removed.
Yes,
but
agreed.
It's like, hey, this kind of got through the vetting process.
Well, so she actually told me that they got back to her and they said, they apologized and said, they go through actually, she says that she emailed the librarian. She apologized for the topics, but said books go through a selection process. So I read that as like, well, sorry, fuck you. We decided it was okay.
I mean, that's probably a canned answer, to be really honest. But
My wife was
mean,
more concerned about like parents that would like bite someone's head off and go to the board and freak the fuck out.
that's
She was
very possible that could happen.
right. So she was kind of like, I'm going to reach out just to preventatively. I can't fucking think of words
Preemptively.
anymore. Preemptively say like, hey, you might want to take a look at this before some crazy parent comes and starts screaming.
Yeah.
So whatever, if they say it went through a selection process and they think it's okay for the school, I don't know. I mean,
have you noticed that the crazy parents are usually the ones that don't even watch or pay attention to what their kids are doing, and they just so happen to see the thing?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and then
I know that maybe this isn't appropriate for her now, so we'll deal with that on our end. You know, whatever.
Speaking of, so last night I got some information. I think I spoke to you. I did speak to you about it because I was fuming that the woman that told that I ended up accidentally telling off because her kid's really shitty.
Oh yeah, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, she called the school to complain, and was like, "Well, she doubling down on. I don't think I don't think that an adult should talk to the kid. They should come to the parent."
Yeah,
and it got me mad because, like, did you
supposed
not
to talk to the
listen
wall?
To anything? You were not here. I even flat out told you. How do you double down on your argument when your argument is faulty because you physically weren't there?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm not walking up to your car. I don't know if you are panicky and have a gun in your car. I don't know how you're going to react.
That's not your
just randomly walking up to the car, and it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to protect my kids and keep my kids from doing things, bullying other kids.
It is not your job to go outside up to somebody else's car to talk to them. No, it's their job to be coming in to pick up their kids to make sure everything went okay to class, especially when they know their kid's a fucking asshole and is causing trouble every class. I would be in there every class. First off, I'd be there the whole time to make sure he wasn't doing anything fucked up. And second, at the very least, if I couldn't do that, I would be coming in at the beginning and at the end of the class to say, how did everything go? Were there any issues? Anything come up? What did he do?
The kid's father, even if he isn't there, comes in at the end of class. He's there when he brings them in. She never comes in.
So he's just married to a cunt.
so then she goes, well, my son said he was joking. And I was like, wait, hold on. So now he's lying.
I was there.
I'm not surprised because, one, I didn't take him aside.
No, you didn't. You were right in front of me.
I said it loud enough for everyone to hear.
And
I wasn't yelling.
Right there. I was right there. I heard everything. You did not yell. You were well within your rights.
With him, like, I had to literally go through it in my head. It was like he instantly apologized. If he was joking, he would have said that, but he didn't. He instantly apologized because he knew he did wrong.
How could you be joking in that manner? That doesn't make sense.
The kid is essentially taller than. He's almost like maybe an inch, and he'll be taller than me. He's huge.
Yeah, he's pretty tall.
And granted, he's a little kid.
He smells really bad too.
But he's really tall. And my son is half of my height.
Yep. Right.
I'm not going to let him enable my daughter's one of her worst habits and bully my son, enabling one of his worst habits, which is to take it.
No, you're 100% on point. And look, and I believe the way I look at it is if the parent isn't around, it's up to another parent or a responsible party to make sure that the kid is not doing something out of line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody has to be responsible for that. The kid can't just run amok and do whatever the fuck he wants. Somebody's got to be responsible for that. So you as another parent, especially as the parent of the kid that he's being a dick to, has every right to say, and again, you didn't yell, you weren't nasty, you just said, don't do that. Don't talk to my son that way. That's all you did.
And I implicated my daughter, who didn't reply to him, by the way. It's just that she's done it in the past. This is not the first time I've seen him do it. I just kind of let it go.
Right. Yeah.
Because my son was being annoying. He's a 6-year-old. They're all annoying.
Agreed. They are annoying.
He was being annoying. I get it. But then he just kept doing it to my son, even if my son wasn't doing anything to him directly. So then, I'm just like, so he says he's joking, and she's like, well, I believe my son. So now you're enabling him to just do whatever he wants. Mind you, that night he already pushed a little girl.
Yeah, and I witnessed that too.
And lied directly to my wife. I was expecting him to fight with me.
Your wife had to discipline him for that. And again, she didn't do anything other than say, You can't do that. Do not push her.
And then, so I was
Pushing a
thinking
fucking
about it,
little
like
girl.
looking at
What a
the way
piece of shit.
the way he was reacting to me, like how he got super respectful, like
He seemed
verbally
scared.
respectful,
He
and he
seemed
was
scared.
scared. And I didn't do anything really. And I was just like, you know what? And I told him I'm not mad at him or anything like that. And I was like, you have to be patient with kids that are smaller than you,
Mm-hmm.
because just like an adult is patient with you when you get too hyper, we're patient. You have to be patient for kids younger than you.
Sure.
And she saw the second half when he came up to me, not when I was talking to him.
Right.
Because her car, and I'm thinking about it, her car was not in front.
No,
Now I know what her car looks like.
I don't
Her
think
car
she
showed
was
up
there
when he
yet.
came to talk to me
The second
when he was
time,
putting his shoes
after I had come back out because I had gone with my son into the changing room, right?
Yeah. So
To help him change.
so I'm thinking about, like, she's insistent. I swear, I know this is very like conspiracy theory-y, but she couldn't handle being told off. Because she wouldn't look me in the eyes. She was like all
She didn't want to be
repeating
wrong.
herself.
She didn't want to acknowledge she was being a poor parent.
I swear she kept harping on it, and because the son didn't want to talk about it anymore.
Oh, he was done. She just didn't. She didn't want to be the bad parent.
And she's harping on it, and then she essentially suggested to the other instructor, well, that parents don't talk to the kids, they talk to other parents. And my wife went, absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to tell a parent they cannot defend their child from anybody.
Right.
I don't care if that's my husband or not. I'm not,
buddy. If I
enforcing
were there,
that rule.
If I were there and one of those kids was picking on my son, I'd probably be a lot worse than you were. Honestly, you know me.
But that's
you
what
know
I'm saying.
I would.
Like, and God forbid if somebody was doing that to her son, hurting his feelings or bullying him.
Oh, yes.
I dare her not say anything because she felt like she had to say something when he was talking. Mind you, the son was talking to me. I leaned into him just because he was talking super low, but I didn't do anything to him, and she just felt some kind of way.
Right.
It's like, lady. Oh, and it just made me so mad.
Dude,
the other instructor was like, she's a single. Her husband's not around, and she's in over her head.
Who cares?
And I'm like,
that doesn't excuse you being an asshole.
We all are in over our heads.
Yeah.
You don't know any of my situation. I don't want to know your situation. All I know is your son bullied my kid. I told him to stop. You should go, my son was doing something wrong. Okay, I'm not comfortable with how it happened, but it is my responsibility to make sure my son is doing the right thing.
Look, the appropriate response is simply, I'm very sorry that my son acted that way. I'll talk to him. That's the appropriate response.
And I'm still seething the fact that this woman felt like she had the right to tell me.
I don't blame you.
What I should do. You should have come to me.
I don't blame you.
I don't even know you. I wouldn't know what you look like.
No, like you said, she never has come in before.
You never came in before. So hopefully she's in tonight. Since she wants to be brave enough to call. I bet you her kid's going to be there without her being there. This is the reason why I was like really angry and jittery. I'm medicated right now because I was having such a panic attack about it. Because there's no way I'm not going to be able.
Do you have to go tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Want me to come with you?
I told my wife, I'm not going to hold it back. I'm not going to yell, but I'm going to tell her flat out.
Want me to come?
Exactly what it is.
I'll come with you.
And I hope it doesn't. It's fine.
It gives me an excuse to yell at someone.
I just hope it doesn't affect the school. Because that's what they're afraid of. That this woman's like, well, they're discriminated, and since he's the husband of the instructor, she's retaliating against my son. It's like, your son is such a piece of shit.
He really is, though. He's a nasty little kid. And
I was patient with him because I know he's a little kid. I think most kids are terrible.
No, but he is especially
but I think most of them are terrible.
Well, look.
But he goes out of his way to be the worst he can. And if you enable that type of mentality, he's a little black kid. Not little, I'm sorry. He's a really tall black kid. He is going to get himself into some shit thinking he can do whatever he wants because he's acting. He's
that's
like
not a good recipe.
He's like 9 or 10. I think he's like 10 or 11, young? Actually. I think he's 10 or 11. He's very young.
He is very tall.
He looks like he's 14.
Yeah, he's very tall for his age.
And he's very tall. That's a problem. There are kids like he's gonna get himself into so much trouble.
Unfortunately, yeah, you're right.
Especially pushing girls.
Yeah, that's like, we had a discussion about, we were talking about that in the car, and my daughter was like, wait, why is it so bad, worse to push a girl? And I was like, it just is. I was like, I don't know how to have this conversation anymore.
It makes people feel a kind of way because we actually don't have gender equality.
I was like, I don't know how to answer this question anymore. Is it okay to push girls as equal? Is it just it's just as bad?
It's not good to push anybody.
No,
unless you're saving them or something, or protecting yourself.
Is it just as bad, or is it still worse to push a girl? Like, in my head, it's still worse to push a girl than to push a boy. But they're equal now. I don't know. My head hurts.
Yeah. So it was crazy, like, last night when I got that. Like, my wife and I did not have a good night.
I wish you didn't have to go until Thursday when I'll be there with you.
Yeah, just, like, because this woman is ridiculous.
Why can't you skip tonight?
Because my kids have to go at least twice, and they can't go on most days during the week.
Why do they have to go twice?
Because that's the rule in our house.
Oh, okay. It's just a rule. Well, if it's a rule in your house, then you can break it for 1 week. You can.
No, because the two people who deal with schedules, being my wife and my daughter, do not do well with schedule change. It makes my life even worse.
No,
so,
I get that.
So
I get that.
It's a damned if I do, damned if I don't.
Yeah.
But again, I'm in the middle of a situation that I didn't want to be in.
You did nothing wrong. You're well within your right. And I mean, honestly, I would just leave it at, if she wants to say something to you, I would just leave it at, look, your son wasn't behaving. You were not here for me to talk to. All I did was tell him that he was acting inappropriately. I wasn't rude.
Yep.
I didn't act out of turn. That's it. I have nothing else to say.
Well,
the end.
You know what? That's very true. The problem is, and this is why, and I feel like this for everything. I'm going to end it on this. I feel like no amount of sensibility or honesty or integrity or whatever outbids selfish stupidity. Because selfish stupidity always wins. Everybody drinks Brondo in the end.
There are a few things in this world
I have with it.
More upsetting than someone who is both stupid and arrogant. It's a new T-shirt on our store. Go check it out.
God, my tragedy became a plug. I
love that shirt. That's such a great line. You said that so long ago, and I finally got a shirt up of it. Our Twitter shirts are back up. They just have the X logo now. So if you want an I Dead Name X shirt, you can get that, which is more factually accurate because you're dead naming X. You're not dead naming Twitter. But I liked that it said Twitter because you're then using the dead name within the phrase. But whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's still up, though, so you can go purchase that one if you guys want it. You know, we sold another shirt. We sold a Coca-Cola shirt. Again,
wow.
Probably nobody that listens to this podcast. It's just somebody on TeePublic just saw it.
A Coke joke.
My wife said, do you think maybe they thought it said Coca-Cola by accident? And I was like, I don't care. We got the $2 margin or whatever it was. Anyway, speaking of my wife.
I couldn't help myself.
Once in a while, we receive some mail, and it comes to us in the mail. Sometimes we will read the mail for you. So listen, because here comes the mail.
That is way too long.
Super long.
Should I play the jingle under it?
There's a jingle? Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is our music for letters. All right, here's the letter. Hey boys, I feel like this one is either going to have you on my side or have you hating me, but one of you is married to me, so whoopsie for you. People who wear AirPods while working, it makes me rage. Most of them are under 26 with big dumb cow looks on their faces. I haven't read this in advance, so I hope she didn't put anything terrible in here. Sorry, kiddo, you need to be aware of your surroundings while you're getting paid. I know, I'm multitasking, bro. F that. I don't get to rock out to Hamilton while I'm teaching because I'm doing my job. Hamilton, oh my god. I can listen, you're white. I can listen to music on a podcast on my own time. It's been bothering me for a while, but what really piqued my ire, did you get a thesaurus for your birthday? Is seeing a young aide in the classroom. Yes, I'm shitting on my wife while I read this. is seeing a young aide in the classroom across from mine wearing them in both ears while he's supposed to be, working with special needs children. Admin sees it, does nothing because he's a dude and he's young and they're desperate to keep him. If I did it, it would be in my file. All because I was simultaneously teaching phonics, putting out fires, and belting show tunes. Oh, God. Actually, it's just AirPod culture as a whole. I hate it. But I don't hate you today. Signed, the wife of one of you.
My God. I was going to ask if it was both ears or one ear. Okay, so I am guilty of this. I don't have AirPods. But I do have headphones. My wife hates it.
I guess I'm supposed to keep the music going.
I guess, but for me, it's therapeutic. I get stuck with my thoughts if I don't have at least it in, even without something playing.
I have Pixel Buds. Because I'm a Pixel guy, as we talked about on our last episode. And I usually keep one in, but it's when I'm home. I don't typically go out and do it.
Yeah. I will forget that it's in my ear. Like, even if there's nobody here, I would have it in my head. But I try to get the ones that that has speakers on it, so it has talk through, so I can generally hear.
Right.
But
transparency
the problem
mode
is, first of all, okay, boomer. That's the guy that says she sounds like an absolute boomer.
He is a millennial, just like us.
Yeah. But the thing is, at like certain jobs, like I had this one job, I was a shelf stalker. I stalked shelves. Not that I, saw their boyfriend and then followed them around, Anyway, so, and I would have a headphone in, I would get in trouble for that all the time, but it was such a brain dead job.
Yeah.
It would kill me. But
no, I get that.
As a teacher's aide,
that's a little different.
That's a little different.
Maybe you should be fucking paying attention to the kids and not listening to music in your ear. You're supposed to be engaged.
And if that isn't the case and you have to do it, at the very least, I don't know if AirPods have it, but talk through and only have that occupied. Both ears, you're an asshole. One ear, you might be listening to a soundtrack for your life. So that's how I feel. Anyway.
The way that's a good way to put it. The way I look at it is this. Look, I worked retail for a long time, right? I worked in the warehouse. So when I was in the back of the warehouse, I had a CD player back there and I would just blast music. And that was fine because I was in the back. When I'd come out on the floor, if I could, I'd put an earphone in and I'd listen to that. I wasn't on the floor to help customers. In fact, I was vehemently against it. I was such a fucking dick. People would come up to me while I was doing like an audit, or a stock audit, scanning stuff into to see what we had. And people would come up and be like, "Hey, can you tell me where to find?" And I'd just be like, "Nope, you got to go over there." And they'd be like, "Well, you're right here. Can I ask you?" I'd be like, "No, I work in the back. I don't work out here."
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't my job. So I'm just doing mindless work, and me having a headphone is not a big deal. If you're a customer service associate and you're supposed to be helping people, I think it's super rude to have an earphone in your ear with music playing while you're supposed to be helping people. And if I was paying you to be helping people and you had something in your ear and you're listening to shit, I would be upset. But yeah,
if a job requires you to actually be aware,
right? You have to have an awareness and be available to other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucked up. If you're a classroom teacher and you're listening to music in both ears while you're supposed to be teaching kids, you should not have a fucking job. You should be pumping gas. Not that there's anything wrong with that job, but you should be doing a mindless task.
That's the job that fits.
That's the job that fits you.
Want to do.
You can listen in your earphones and pump gas. Okay, you can.
I get it.
That
kids
fits.
Are loud. Kids shriek all the time. They babble. They'll start making sense in the beginning of the sentence, and then all of a sudden you're talking about pizza. I get it, but. The headphones, that's lunchtime things when you are dealing with children or even like certain animals.
I mean, if you're a dog walker or something, or
well, dog walker because you're dealing with cars and stuff, or if you work at a zoo specifically because you don't want to get eaten. Like there are definitely situations where that is needed. And I don't have a problem with it normally, but that's because I do it. But I know that if I don't sit in my car. I've seen people in their car with headphones in.
Yeah.
I'm like, that
driving?
How retarded are you? Do you know that your car usually is a giant headphone?
Yeah, I never
it's a
understand
surround
people with
sound.
headphones in their car. That is the dumbest shit I think you could possibly do. I guess if your speakers are blown or something, but then you
But
can't
then you
hear
can't
anything
hear
where are
everything
you?
outside.
It's so stupid. I mean, maybe
Because
that's
even
why
if the
everybody's
car's
such bad
playing
drivers.
music, I can hear someone honking at me.
You know what? I see this as another facet of speakerphonistas. It's like right along that vein.
Yeah.
Like it's like the other side of that. It's like the parallel to speakerphonistas. It's AirPod assholes, something. I don't know. We usually come up with these names ahead of time. I'm not good on the fly. All right. Well, thanks for that email, wife. It's nice of you to do, I guess.
Thank you, wife. The wife to one of us.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we get into our topic?
No, I had my big rant. I have low energy today.
Yeah, I have kind of low energy today too. I have another doctor's appointment today. I went to the hematologist yesterday because the gastroenterologist, because I'm anemic, wanted to stick cameras up my ass and down my throat. Did I tell you that? I told you that, right? So,
you started to.
At the same time, they wanted to double team me.
See that? You said you wanted to avoid getting like a camera shoved up you, but you never mentioned that.
Yeah, so my thought process was, okay, well, he wants to do this because I'm anemic, so why don't I go to a blood specialist and see if there's less invasive shit they could do? And what he told me was, because my iron's not low, if I'm understanding correctly, it's probably not necessary, because from what he said was if you had bleeding happening, your iron would also be off, and that's not the case with me. So they took more blood, and they're going to call me in a couple days and tell me what they think I should do. And today I get to go to the newest rheumatologist. This is number 3 in my journey of trying to find out what autoimmune disease I have. So I don't know. I hope that works out. Wish me luck.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. If you need anything,
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And you're going to have to let me know how your night goes as well. And if you need to rant, I'm here.
I make sure. You know what? I really wasn't going to message you. I wasn't going to message you. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Why?
I should do that. Because I don't bother people with my problems. I vent
dude,
it out
like
in forums.
We're best buds, man. I'd be very upset with you not sharing your issues with me.
That's why I decided to do so.
I appreciate it. It makes me feel
good. I felt much better after doing it.
Positive affirmation time. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, buddy. Now it is time.
All right, we're going to jump into our topic here.
It's time
to begin the complaining.
All right, everybody. We got our very special guest this week, Mr. Jobeth R. Bowers. You may know him as Judge Mentalist.
What's happening? What's going on?
We're so happy to have you. You were kind enough to fill in. I've been talking to you about joining us on the show for, I think, since we started it.
Months. It's been months.
Yeah,
it's been a while. Yeah. I'm glad we could get it here.
Yeah, you were kind enough to fill in for me today when I asked you the other night if you had time today. So I appreciate it. So Jobeth, being a mentalist, wanted to talk about psychics and mediums as our topic today. So Jobeth, I'm gonna let you kick it off because this is your bag. you know these people well enough based on your second occupation to elaborate.
So, I mean, I think I want to start this by not having it be a full-on lambasting of the art. If the presentation is done for entertainment and for artful purposes,
Agreed.
There's a line to be drawn, and some do it well, and some don't. And I know that line also with performers sometimes gets blurred. And I think to a large extent, because there are a lot of folks out there that, will call themselves mind readers or mentalists or things of that nature.
Right.
And they're doing ticketed stage shows. And it starts and stops there. And I know that there's a wide array within that column of how much, what's the right word for this? Disclaimer is made on what they're doing.
Yeah, I get what you're talking about. So like a person, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So in that light, I mean, doing that, those types of stage performances, I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care what level of disclaimer you choose to give or not. The line that really irks me, and you see this more so in stories after the fact on those Dateline type TV shows where
Yeah,
it crosses the line from entertainment into straight up swindling.
sure.
And I will tell you right now that as of the day of this recording, March 12th, 2024, around 1 p.m. Eastern, psychics don't actually exist. Period. Full
As
stop.
as far as true abilities to have psychic powers and predict the future, read minds, anything like that.
Correct. Now, I will, and again, everything that I'm going to say here is probably going to have some sort of caveat. Whether that's the performer in me, whether that's the attorney in me, whatever it is somewhat irrelevant as to where it's coming from. I'm not discounting the fact that some people have a greater level of perception than others.
Sure.
An understanding for just the way that people work or reading people's body language or things
Right.
of that nature. Those things are very, very real. But for some huckster to go so far as to say that I can speak to your dead relatives, put money in this jar right here, fuck you.
Agreed.
That and those people exist.
Yeah, well, you've got the Long Island medium types. You've got John. What's the really popular guy?
I only know him as like man with thick eyeliner. That's all I
Yeah.
remember him as. Like
There's the one dude that's
he was on Sci-Fi. He was really big in the late 2000s.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, that guy was everywhere for a while.
There are even like mega church pastors that will claim to be able to heal people and other horseshit like that.
Oh man,
Benny
yes.
Hinn. Benny
Hinn.
Hinn.
All of it falls
all
into
of
the same
them.
category.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, for people to do unexplainable things on stage for entertainment purposes, okay, that's great. You are buying a ticket to a show. Just like I don't have you guys have seen Oppenheimer or Barbie in the past year?
Yeah.
Yep.
You bought a ticket to a show.
Absolutely right.
Now there are both of those movies are rooted in societal truths, but they're still entertainment.
Yeah,
but I don't think Cillian Murphy made the A-bomb. Like we go in knowing, like we know for a fact we have the contract essentially that hey, we're going in to see this for entertainment. Where somebody that goes to see a psychic who claims that they're doing something or seeing it as well, I'm going in for hope.
Well,
it's
we're
like going
in
to church, like I'm going in for something personal to me.
But we're going in suspending our disbelief, and I think that applies in both situations, right?
Yeah, and again, if it starts and stops at the door to that venue, if there's not some, hey, come see me afterwards, and I'm going to shake you down for $1,000, and we're going to talk to your great grandmother or some shit like that. That's ridiculous and ludicrous. And again, it is it is an acquired skill. And there are a lot of different ways to, and I'm not going to reveal any real methods here. There's no reason to.
No, I don't expect you to.
There are a lot of ways to kind of make it look good. And some people are much better at it than others. But again, doing so for entertainment purposes. But I mean, let's travel down the path. All right. Let's play a little game. I mean, I'm getting a sense, Matt, that in the past you've had, I don't want to say problems or trouble at home with your family, but something that has to do with health and wellness that's caused some strife in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And direct impact with your relationships, not just with your wife and children, but just really in all walks of life.
You're spot on.
And I'm spot on because I know that in the past
Right?
you've been sick, and I made the rest of that shit up.
There you go.
Because it
'Cause we're
naturally
human.
follows
It happens.
that if you get sick, that other shit in your life is going to fall
Right.
apart. Okay,
Sure.
You might be a
Like-
little bit more of a dick. Like,
and it's just that simple, you know. Like
Well, I mean, I
Queen,
know.
I feel like within the past few years, relatively recently, I mean, to the point where you can still feel it, you've dealt with loss in your life.
Which one of us are you talking to?
yeah, of course.
To
He
Queen.
said Joaquin.
It doesn't
He said
fucking
Joaquin.
matter.
Yeah,
Because I can say that
that's
about
everybody.
absolutely anybody.
You can say that to anybody.
Well,
Anybody
it's
that
true
I
for me.
approach
It's
on
very
the
true.
street.
It's this. I did a little research on this because I remember they said what J is like the easiest, like the most common letter among names. So they say there's a name with a J, and they're like calling it out, and then somebody will say something, and that's the person they hone in on. Like
Right.
it's just
And-
easy to
and
read them
here's
like
what
that.
happens. Like it didn't matter. I could approach either of you. One of you within the past handful of years. By the way,
It's
to
vague.
reemphasize, we're recording this in 2024. Who hasn't dealt with some form of loss or death?
We had a pandemic
Yeah,
not
we've
that
had
long
4
ago that
years.
affected everybody.
It's like,
been
here are
4
the
years of
fish.
trouble. Yeah.
Welcome to the barrel. Like everyone was affected and impacted.
So it sounds more like. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just sounds more like it's taking is manipulating the idea that people don't think too far past like the immediacy of what you're saying, and you're trying to like hook that emotional like portion first before they have time to even
100%.
think about it.
And to sit here and say, I mean, here's a statement. I'm speaking to a room, and one of you, I get the sense that there has been something financially that has changed drastically in one of your lives, right? And then one of you is going to react to that.
Or both of us
You've
in
got
any of
something
these
in mind,
cases.
don't you,
like,
Jaquim? Right? You've got something in mind. Now I've honed in on my target, and I'm literally taking horseshoes.
So that could literally
standing backwards to the pit and tossing
Just
them,
tossing them.
everything
and
you've
hoping
said
that
could
they
apply.
land somewhere.
Everything you said could apply to me or Joaquin easily.
Right. And if you notice, I didn't say one of you had hardship financially,
Yep.
or that one of you had some great, windfall recently.
I didn't even think of it that way. I just immediately went to hardship. So
But
I
you
get
went
it.
to something that
Yep.
applied to you.
Applies to you, right?
And if we're not playing this game full disclosure here, you're like, fuck, how's this guy know?
So let me ask you a question.
So you're making I'm sorry. Go on, Matt.
No, so there are. You're more familiar with the world with me, and I know you've been going to study and train with some experts in the field and doing this. So I know you've learned a lot. Are there maybe you don't want to call anybody out, but are there performance mentalists that try to portray themselves as having legitimate powers, or are they, for the most part, the performing aspect? It's all the assumption, and when you come in and when you leave the door, it's just a show.
I think that most, and there's a sliding scale on this. Most of them rely on this unwritten agreement that you're here to see
Sure.
a show. You're
Okay.
here to be entertained. Part of your job, as you mentioned, is to dispel, belief
Disbelief
for the
in-
hour or hour and a half that you're here in this room.
right.
And it's these aren't charlatans on stage that are like, hey, because it's the next step that's the problem. It's the
Right.
next step of me honing in on you having some sort of financial insecurity and saying, I can help you with this.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
I understand that you're in a tough spot, but I don't do this work for free. So here's my Venmo, here's my Cash App, here's this bucket, throw some money into it. And then I'm just going to continue to feed, then it's when it crosses that line, which touring stage performers don't really do, to my knowledge.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. It's a different world for
Well,
sure.
I mean, like that's speaking of stage performance, but the problem with the advent of like social media, like being as prevalent as it is, especially TikTok. I have like a direct example. There's a TikTok psychic who does like tarot card readings, and there was a murder in Ohio, and I don't know all the full details, but she started chiming in, and it's snowballed to a point that it started actually affecting the actual investigation, and now there's a defamation suit against her simply because she was making things up and then doubled down on it. And it wasn't like she was doing it for pay, she was doing it for attention. And it seems like what I see, at least with online psychics nowadays, is that they're doing it not just for, I'm going to get some money under the table. It's, hey, I'm going to get all these eyes on me.
Yeah.
Right. Any of that really falls into that same category. And again, it can be done exactly the same way. Like, I can make those same sort of guesses about, this person that's responsible for this murder experienced a period of just being disconnected from people around them and a great deal of strife. And they really felt like, and you just go through the personality traits that would need to happen to somebody to get them to come to the level of fucking taking a life. Like it's not a minor thing. And your miss on that is that the person's a true psychopath, which isn't a full miss. And that there's some sort of serial killer element to this, which still fits into that parameter of being disconnected from, societal norms. Sure. And everything I just told you is absolute hogwash because it fits a boilerplate pre-qualification for somebody to do that thing, whatever it may be.
No, that makes perfect sense. So go ahead.
The methodology really, and again, some of these people are doing this not knowing that they're doing what they're doing. Like I'm walking you through and explaining an intentional process here that starts. It's a funnel. It starts with the very general, and then when we hit something, we start to dwindle down.
Narrow it in, yeah.
And if I were to go through that process, and as we were going down that funnel, hit, miss, pivot, hit. That miss that was there gets lost in all these hits. And nobody ever looks back to be like, well, he was wrong or off on this one.
On that one thing,
They're really just laser focused because I think a lot of this preys on human nature wanting there to be something more, wanting there to be an
meaning.
explanation,
I think that's
there
spot
to be an answer. So, getting things that start to look like that, they're going to gravitate toward those, not toward the little, well, maybe he's got like a sinus headache right now, so he's not 100% in his zone, which actually if my voice sounds weird, that's actually happening. But none of your listeners know what my voice sounds like, so it just sounds like what it sounds like right now.
You sound like normal to me.
But and it's really just a lot of that type of chicanery is that starting with the general, and it works so well, like you mentioned, in a big room. I'm getting something from somebody who's got an E in their name. It's not the first letter of their name, but does anybody in the room right now have an E in their name? I'll give you a clue. 3 hands should go up.
I do.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Me.
And one of you is going to want to sit in your seat, and one of you is going to be like, maybe he's talking about me.
Yeah, somebody's going to perk up.
Well, I have a few questions for you. So that goes to one question. Do you get folks at shows that are not there to participate, that are there to just be a dick?
Hecklers?
Essentially, yeah.
All of the above. Now, recently,
how do you deal with that?
So when I'm on stage, the vast majority of my stage work is part of a two-part, 2-person, 2-act show. Right. So the first half, my partner is a mind reader, and he starts off his spiel with a quasi disclaimer about how what he's doing isn't actually psychic.
Oh, so he actually spells it out for the audience
He
ahead
says,
of time.
Look, I'm not psychic. I don't have special powers. I am using things like my own perception and tells like you would have in poker and things like that. Now I will put it out there right now that 90% of what he's saying there is a fucking lie, okay? Everything that he's doing in his show is some sort of other method and trick to get or transmit the information
Sleight
that
of
he's
hand,
doing,
essentially.
Yeah.
which, I don't feel any sort of guilt by saying that, but he's at least telling you straight up the important thing of, I'm not a psychic. I don't have supernatural powers. Now, I will say that years ago, I used to do this poker tell type of routine where I would get 3 or 4 people up on stage who would raise their hand upon me calling for that. And we are going to get back to the different types of people in the audience, but I kind of wanted to bring this into play that
this is your segment.
I
Wherever you want to go.
deal out poker hands to people and then deal out community cards like in the Texas Hold'em game.
Okay.
And I would suss out what types of hands everybody had. And full disclosure, I knew every single card that was dealt to every single person, and I knew every single community card that was going to be dealt up. And it was scripted in such a way that I could tell the story that I wanted to tell. But doing that routine 10, 20, 30 times, you pick up on these people actually reacting the way that you would expect them to react to the cards that are actually in their hands, whether they think that you know what they have or not. So there gets to be a point in doing a routine like that, if you're paying attention to people, which is kind of part of the shtick of being on stage, where you almost feel like, hey, I could do this blind.
I really could do this. Kind of developing the ability to know. Yeah.
And I don't know. I've never actually tested that because I'm putting on a show. It needs to go the way that it needs to go.
Sure.
Because I'll tell you, even the greatest poker players who get reads off of people don't end up winning every single tournament. Don't end up cashing in every single tournament. Now they do well and they do better than most. That's why they're professionals in a gambling setting. But so the first half of that show, I'll get back to that, is him doing a mind reader type of show, a mentalist show. The second half of the show, I'm doing a stage hypnosis show. So they're kind of two different directions of how we're messing with people. And I mean that in the most polite way possible. Two big differences between both halves of those shows. And if anybody's interested, it's Between Two Minds, between the number2minds.com if you want information on us or where we might be performing or how to get
check
us
that out.
in your hometown to do a fundraiser show or something to raise money for a nonprofit, because we love doing shit like that.
Jobeth is great. He's been doing shows for Boys and Girls Clubs, stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
And judgementalist.com. Don't forget that.
Yep. So when he's got volunteers, what volunteer means in his half of the show and what volunteer means in my half of the show are not the same thing. He is actually picking people from the audience. You, sir, would you join me up here? Ma'am, can you help me out? Now, those people can certainly decline. And there are people who just really don't want to be up on stage. Different performers treat that differently. We are very happy to just move on. We're not trying to ostracize anybody. We're not trying to make anybody the butt of a joke in our show or anything like that. But those people come up and then they're part of the play. Sometimes you will get people who are intentionally difficult or who will yell things out from the audience just because they want to be, part of the show in whatever way that seems to make sense for them.
Had a little too much to drink.
It could be too much to drink. And it's funny because there are performers locally in my area, or regionally in my area, that when I would send them video of me doing shows for those types of audiences, the incredibly drunk, the all over the place, the yelling, the this, that, and the other, the talking back or whatever, I would get calls being like, how do you do this? I'm like, You're
Yeah.
not talking about the methods because I know you know how I do all this shit. And he's like, no, how do you deal with these people? And I'm like, I love it, man. I personally like that. I love that kind of energy in that kind of a show. And I draw off of that energy. Like some of my best moments when I was doing more mentalism than hypnosis come from, I mean, hell, I got a story from this gal where I thought on stage everything was going absolutely sideways. And this whole routine was such a clusterfuck that we ended up getting everything back on track and it worked out well. And it was a huge, huge reaction from the audience. But this
That's a skill in of itself, right? Being able to get it back
sure
on
is.
track.
To have to work.
This
It's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
like part of it had to do with me drawing something that I pulled from her mind. And she asked me to sign it at the end of this in front of the whole room of like 100 and some people. Can you sign that to Trainwreck with love? She fucking nicknamed herself Trainwreck because she absolutely was nothing less. And it literally was to the point. So the routine goes like this. I've got this booklet that's got all these different words written in it. All sorts of random ass shit. Animals, vegetables, minerals, places, whatever. Open it up, find one, think about that word. Okay. And then you've got this word in mind. I want you to imagine spelling that word out. It's got however many letters in it. It's got, is there a double letter in there? Okay, let's focus on that letter. I want you to take that letter. Just think of that double letter, but just one instance of it. I want you to think of a city. Let's not keep it domestic. Let's go to, Europe or overseas. A foreign city that starts with that letter, and there was just this screeching halt. And I'm like,
She couldn't think of anything.
asking you for anything complicated here, right? And it was
long
just
pregnant pause.
To me, as the performer, time stopped. I mean, it was like I could see every grain of sand
like, come on, you idiot,
through
you could do this
hourglass as this chick struggled to come up with the name of a city that started with a letter. So much so, can I phone a friend?
Any city.
Any city. Can I phone a friend? What do you mean, phone a friend?
She actually asked that?
She asks this on stage. I have this on video.
Jesus.
I'll clip it and I'll send it to you. It was great.
Please do.
And I'm like,
God.
We'll post it on our social.
I'm starting to look through his YouTube right now.
You're going to tell me more than I know. The whole point is I'm figuring this out. If you get on the phone and say, no, let me just go ask my friend. Okay. She goes out to the audience, first or second row, is whispering to her friend. And I'm like, okay, good. We're going to get back on track here. Hey, we're having trouble. What? And I mean, the letter
was the letter X. Was it
the
X?
letter was P. All right?
That's the letter I had in my head.
That's what I was
name
thinking.
a city, not in the
Paris.
US. Paris. Okay, great. We'll go with that. Like
Peru.
That took you. I didn't start the timer.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it was a full second. Okay. And like,
oh my God.
Then the boyfriend of the phone a friend gets them somewhere and she comes back up on stage. And I'm like, I turned to the audience and I'm like, I think I told you guys when this whole thing started, this is not a precise science. This isn't, sometimes let's just put it this way, folks. Normally, and this was like we were doing a dual headliner show and I was going second, and this was at a Moose Lodge. So this was a very, very much a drinking audience. And it was literally at a different point, with different routine. I had somebody on stage request a shot break. And somehow, I don't know how they coordinated this. 2 people ran up to the stage with 4 shots that they gave to 4 people that I had on stage, and they all did shots together. It was one of those types of shows. And so I literally turned to the audience, and it was kind of like one of those, in mystery arts and performance, the fourth wall is not what it is most places. But I literally took a sledgehammer to the fourth wall, if there even was one. And I was like, listen. I have no idea what the hell she's thinking. I think I'm picking up on something. if I get anywhere near close,
It's a
normally
miracle.
my hope at the end of the show is that you guys rise to your feet and give me a standing ovation. But if I get anywhere near where she is right now, I'm going to give you all permission to just give me that standing O right now. And we ended up getting there. But God, if I didn't think that I was in shit shape through that whole process, because this girl was just blank and I didn't know where things were going.
But you've got the talent to get it there. So that's what it comes down to.
The amount of like nerve it has to take.
Look, everything got to where it needed to go, but boy, oh boy, was there a whole lot of in between getting there. And the funny thing about it was, you know, the seeds of time that I just mentioned and those grains of sand dropping through. Fuck, I felt like I was on stage doing that routine for 20 minutes. When I go back and watch it, it was like 4.5. Like time wasn't going nearly as slow as I thought it was. But God, was I just trudging through absolute nothingness.
I can only liken it like when you miss a step going down the stairs in the dark and it just feels like you fall forever.
Yeah.
It's a single step.
I think that's an accurate description of what I was feeling. So, you know, fast forwarding to that, when I do the hypnosis portion of our show, I have a row of chairs that are sitting behind me lined up left to right. As many hypnosis shows are set that way.
Yeah, you've sent me the videos. Yeah. I've seen.
There is a time in which I talk about what hypnosis is, what it isn't. I give some examples in everyday life. I do some stuff with the folks in the audience, you know, the whole group. And it gets to the point where I say, look, I'm not putting my finger out into the audience. These chairs are for you. The first, however many chairs there are, and I usually set those chairs based on stage size and audience size. Anywhere between like 8 and 10 chairs is usually what it is.
Okay.
And it literally, there's music that starts to trigger people to come up and fill those seats, but it's all first come, first serve. And I tell people ahead of time, look, there's really, you know, only a couple types of people that I don't want up here on stage. Number one, if medically you know that you shouldn't be up here on stage, because we are going to move around and do stuff like that. So if you've got a broken bone or you're recently recovering from one or had a surgery or things like that, just, you know, stay put. The show's going to be just as good from where you are. Or if you're one of those people that's sitting out there in the audience, arms crossed, whether they're actually crossed or if they're just crossed in your mind thinking there's no way this guy's going to fucking hypnotize me, you win. We're not even going to fight that fight. I'm just going to concede that point to you right now, because what I'm looking for when I get people up on stage for that half of the show is to get people deep into their subconscious mind in a very short period of time.
And that's not going to happen if they're blocking you right from the get-go.
If they're blocking, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not the kind of, like, I'm not a street hypnotist. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to take that difficult player, have him stand up, have him look at me, shake his hand, yank his arm, and put him under. Like, that's not.
Well, you're doing a show. You want to be entertaining, so why do that? Yeah, why?
There's
you're not trying to impress someone. You're there to entertain.
If I've got 10 chairs up there, I really only want 4 or 5 people to stay up on stage anyway.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise, I mean, I have a duty to the people that are up on stage to keep them safe and put on an entertaining show. So I don't want to be yanking people's arms or smacking them in the back of the head or anything that you sometimes see in some of these, you know, street hypnosis videos and TikToks and things like that. I mean, are those people getting hypnotized? Are those people going under? Absolutely. But it's not the feel for the show that I'm trying to put on.
Right. No, that makes sense.
I give my stage partner, Bernardo, a ton of credit. And I tell him this all the time, because when I get to that part in my show, that music track is maybe 45, 50 seconds. And it rarely ever, the only time it plays all the way through, even though it's on a loop, the only time it plays all the way through is if there's like some really high stage and a long distance to get there or whatever. Like, those chairs feel like that for me. And I believe that that's largely because of the way that Bernardo in the first half of the show treats his volunteers.
Sets it up for you.
Nobody gets beat up. Nobody's the loser. Nobody, you know, ends up in a situation where they feel like, you know, they're on the short end of the stick. In fact, a lot of the routines that he does generally in that show, and things change up from time to time. And if we're playing in an area where we've performed before, we'll swap out a lot of the routines in both halves of the show just to keep it fresh. Although anytime that you're doing a show that involves a ton of audience interaction, it's going to be a different show every time anyway.
Right.
But I mean, he treats people well. He treats people with respect. The same with my half of the show. But I give him, like I said, I tell him this on almost every show, that he's a big component to me being able to fill my stage so quickly and to fill those chairs so quickly.
Yeah, it gets people comfortable, and
Yeah.
once the second
And I
half
think
comes
that a
along, they're
lot
ready
of
to do
that,
it.
yeah, a lot of that kind of difficulty that some people want to have goes away when it feels that way. It's not to say that we don't have those types of people, but it's kind of an attitude that you do or don't portray to people. And
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I know Matt Donnelly,
Of
who
course I do.
performs as the Mind Noodler, and I can't say I
We
think that
love
I
Matt
have.
Donnelly.
Oh, he's fantastic. And he's got an improv background. And you just kind of, when he takes the stage, especially, and I've only seen him perform once in the newer tuxedo getup, but when he goes up there dressed in the overalls that he's got and the way that he normally is dressed, somehow he manages to project this feeling and this invitation that it's okay to play around and that you're in a little bit of a different environment with him. And
he projects that just in general, just hearing him talk. I mean,
right.
he just has that air about him that it's a safe space. You're going to be comfortable. You can be yourself. So I could see that. Yeah.
And I will tell you that I have, and we did a mini tour over 10 days last summer and
Yep.
have done a bunch of shows together over the years. And obviously I've seen a ton of shows that weren't him. The non-scripted, unexpected audience interaction percentage for Matt Donnelly is substantially higher than almost anybody that I've ever seen before, outside of a true stand-up who's doing crowd work.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It does not surprise me.
And everybody, and he still doesn't beat anybody up when he does it. He still does a great job with it. And, and sure, there might be some sourish moments, but he's never worse to somebody than they are to him. And he usually diffuses any situation that might look like somebody's really out to be an asshole, which I don't think happens too much.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've probably shared the stage with him in that capacity 15, 16 times now. So the number of times that I've seen that, people that you can tell that they're there to be the show when it was not, like I invite people on my stage to be the stars of the show. I'm going to have complete control over you when you do it. So maybe that's the part that you miss.
Different type of show. You're not supposed to do that with Matt Donnelly. I love his stories about the stage. He has some of the best stories he tells about the crazy shit that people do at his shows.
Oh yeah. We were doing a show in Philadelphia at a theater called Smoke and Mirrors. It's right outside of the city. Mm-hmm. If anybody's anywhere near this, it's totally worth whatever drive it's going to take to get you there, because it's a really cool setup. It's got this like stadium vaulted style seating. So whether you're in the front row or the back row, you feel like you're right there in the action. And it's something that you don't see in a lot of theaters, but it's set up so that they don't have to change anything in that theater. If they could bring in a close-up card magician.
Doesn't make a difference.
Everybody's going to see it. They don't have to make any sort of modifications. They don't have to project anything onto a screen. Everybody gets to see everything from every vantage point. It's really great. So we're there, and there's a performer opening for us. This is part of that mini tour last summer. And he was talking about a colleague of his up in Connecticut, I want to say, and the way that he handles hecklers. And he's like, I've never, other than this guy, seen anybody really handle a heckler and just put them in their place. And I turned to Matt and I'm like, are we going to see this happen tonight? Is this foreshadowing? Because sometimes people just have the ability to put something into the world. And, I know this is going to sound like the horse shit that I was saying is horse shit at the beginning of us talking here, but I thoroughly believe that attitudes can will situations into existence to some extent. And sure enough, there was a special friend in that audience for Matt that night, and he took that guy to task. And the best part is that the guy didn't quit. Now, he wasn't malicious, he wasn't nasty. Neither the heckler or Matt.
Yeah.
But he also didn't just being challenging
until Matt was just like, "Hey, buddy, you're coming up here for this next thing. There's one way to shut you up, and it's going to be right the fuck here." And
nice.
I go to Jim, who was the guy opening for us. I'm like, thought you only saw one guy do that before. And it was clear that Matt was not trying to make that happen. This was just given to him, and he just takes it and runs with it. And it's,
it doesn't surprise me at all.
I'm a huge fan of
I don't care how many times you think that you've seen his show and how, whatever. It's always worth seeing again because you never know who's going to be there. And like I said, somehow there's just one of those welcome mats that's sitting out there for one or two people to decide that they want to screw around. And he has a ton of fun with it.
I guess that's probably the best way to go about it. I had two more questions for you, Joe, but do you have time?
Yeah.
So to go back to, we were talking about psychics and mediums and their them being shysters versus, is that an okay word to use anymore? Or is that like a bad word to use now?
I don't know.
It's
but
internet stuff, so we're just going to say it in the context that it needs to be in.
Shysters, trying to take people's money. Now, how do you look at somebody like the Long Island Medium that does it as a television show? Is that okay because it's a performance? Or she's still taking money from people, I think.
So if you go, Penn and Teller years ago, I think this might have been 20 years ago, had this series called Bullshit.
Of course. It
was on Showtime.
One of the best series Classic. I think ever made. Easily.
And they do an episode on, I think, John Edwards. That's the name that we were looking for.
That's earlier. The guy, John Edwards.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure.
Thank you.
And they take people in there and surreptitiously have cameras set up to capture some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes.
You're right.
Before the show and really where it goes next.
You're right. I remember that.
In those types of situations, a lot of times, and again, it goes back to kind of what I said, if it starts and stops with the admission point and the purchase of that ticket, fine. This, some of these types of situations certainly go further because that person that they really connected with in the audience, and
now they're going to their house,
grandma or grandpa or Aunt Ginny in the air or whatever. Those people come and approach the performer afterwards. And I think that's really where the rubber meets the road as to whether or not they try to take it offline. They try to take that and engage that and start.
Let me be your personal medium.
So getting some actual money, because now you've introduced an additional factor of time. I already know what I've hit on with you, and we're going to set up an appointment, and that appointment's going to be a week from now.
Mm-hmm.
I now have 7 days to dig.
Yeah, that's true.
And do research.
Point. Especially nowadays with the internet, it's probably so much easier than it ever was before.
I'm sure that it is. Like, I'm sure that I could actually troll your social media profiles and find something that's a closer hit than me just knowing that you were sick a couple months ago for an extended period of time, and then just riffing off of that. Like, so I could get real facts.
That kind of leads into my next question. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. I totally agree with you. Like, fuck that. You're taking people's money and lying to them in that way. But there are actually, I remember when we first discussed this topic, my wife brought this up. And she said, well, what about people who actually get some sort of, I don't know, comfort out of it if this person's taking advantage of them and pulling this crap and saying I'm talking to your dead loved one. How do you look at that side of it? And again, I totally disagree, but
I really think that it's more of the same, because in the storytell world that your wife is hoping that exists in, that the exchange there is, hey, I'm talking to this person that you currently sit here feeling that you didn't get closure with.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have a bullshit exchange, and you're going to walk away from this feeling like you got the closure that you wanted. But it never works that way.
Yeah, it sounds like you're paying $50 to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound.
And they will
doesn't
continue
help for
to
anything.
keep
That's
that
fair.
open and pull and pull and pull and pull and pull more.
So there's the issue.
And
It's
that's the
never
part
going
that
to
you'll never
actually end.
see in the show.
Hey, Nana wants to talk to you again.
Right.
Well, they start depending on you.
Right.
And
Okay.
then
So then
become their counselor.
it's not a one-time thing. It's now I gotcha.
And here's the thing.
We're going to do this every week.
If you think that I am communicating with the beyond, then you have an understanding and an idea and a belief that person there that we're not communicating with exists on some plane with some level of cognition that you and I don't have. So you're then going to have questions for that person about your life. And who's the conduit to that person? It's me.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. Cha-ching. Should I do this and should I do that and whatever? And the tarot cards are no different. The tarot cards are all very, very much an affect of, how do I start general? How do I get more specific as I read into that person's responses to me fishing? And, part of it, and I think that if you go back to, and this is the best of my recollection of how that Penn and Teller bullshit thing went down. Me coming in here, if I weren't coming in here to talk about this in the light that I'm here to talk about this, when we go through that diatribe about you having strife that was caused by an illness, what I know. But Jaquim and every member of the audience is over there shitting their fucking pants. Like, how's this guy know this?
Fair.
This guy's got real fucking insight. You, and only you, know that I know what probably tip of the iceberg shit that I know.
Right. But
all based on me extrapolating a story based on one fact.
One thing.
A story that's not hard to believe. Did I get in any way specific about anything? No. But it fits somewhere, somehow, and you're losing your mind. And so is that person and that, imagine a full auditorium.
Sure.
Where there's two different realities happening right now. You're maybe a little impressed that I can draw the conclusions that I've drawn, but everybody else is out of their goddamn mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
It doesn't take a ton of information. And of course, put me in an auditorium of 2,000 people. Somebody's suffered loss within the past week.
Yeah, your
more
odds
than
go
likely.
up.
Yeah,
the more people you have,
somebody has a birthday coming up.
Put me in a room of 100 or more people, and 2 of them have the same birth date.
Right. I've heard that stat.
And that's just like statistics right there.
Isn't it like 1 in 23 or some crazy number like that?
Yeah, I think that the number is like if you've got an audience of like 22 or 25 or something like that, the probability of 2 of them sharing a birthday.
It's some crazy low number that you would not
expect. The average person is so small that it seems magical to meet somebody like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And all it is kind of playing off of those kinds of things, or just putting something out there in the world that's one thing, but I'm telling you it's something else. And when we look at it from over here, it's goddamn amazing.
Yeah, I get it.
If I tell you what's really going on here, it's nowhere near as impressive. And
I want to say it was Michael Shermer. You familiar with Michael Shermer?
Name sounds familiar.
Skeptic magazine editor.
Okay.
He did a podcast with I think it was with the World's Greatest Con guys. Jury and oh my God, Brian Brushwood.
And Brushwood.
And he talked about the same type of thing, that we're talking about now. Is a great pod. If everybody wants to catch that episode, but very similar to what we're talking about and how it works. And in terms of
you want to hear detailed stories about people, full disclosure, pretending to be psychic to fuck over people who just wanted to believe. You want a great instance of people who just wanted to believe, even though they were supposed to be scientists.
Mhm.
I think it's the 3rd season of World's Greatest
Yes.
Con.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's huge.
With
I gotta check that out.
mentalism experiments
with
they did.
Banachek, yeah.
With Banachek, yep. And that's a great season. It's just absolutely crazy that you got literal scientists believing these guys can control things with their mind and just with the simplest tricks. That's what it was. They had that, Joe, but now that you mention it, it was an add-on at the end of that season where they spoke with Michael Shermer.
Yeah,
and he was talking about that whole process and how easy it was to get these guys to believe these things with the simplest tricks. And like you said, they were just they wanted to believe it so bad, and they're scientists. So very cool. Yeah, definitely worth a listen. I forgot it was World's Greatest Con, that it was part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot. Again, like I started with this. If it's being done for entertainment,
did we lose you,
and
Joe?
nobody's being screwed over,
lost them,
and everybody's on the same page, knowing that it's entertainment.
Hopefully, we get them back here to
then
wrap up for.
I'm all about it. I think I may have lost you guys.
Oh, poor Joe. Let me message him. I think
hello?
We lost. Yeah.
This is actually full episode length. Almost.
Yeah. We got. I mean, we got a good amount of time. We can do a little banter if you want, and
yeah,
we don't even have to. We can do a half hour or so banter. I don't even know what I want to talk about, but we always think of stuff.
Yeah.
And then if you want to announce for the next podcast that Ray's going to be on and what we're going to talk. Oh, she doesn't know the topic she wants to do yet, right?
Yeah, she's still thinking about it.
Hey, I don't know how I got booted there.
That's all right.
It happens sometimes on Riverside.
Yeah, it's really good for this stuff, and they've got a lot of cool features. But yeah, once in a while you get booted. Do you have to wrap up?
I'm getting to the end of it, but
okay, yeah. Go ahead. Finish your thoughts.
I mean, I think just one of the big things is that I think it's all
fair again. A lot of quality problems
for entertainment, and if there's full disclosure. And again, it doesn't have to be a full-on disclaimer or anything like that. But just, you know, if it starts and stops at the door, I think it's kosher. I think it's good to go. Everybody's there to be entertained and have a good time.
No, I agree. And like you said,
it's all entertainment.
I don't think you need the disclosure. I think people go in knowing they're there to be entertained. And like you said, I don't think it has to be explicit. I think it's just something you know going in and you leave when you go out. What?
I mean, I don't fully agree with the no need for the disclosure. You're giving people way too much credit. I'm sorry. I mean, people need to be told that coffee is hot. So I think I honestly think that the disclaimer is needed for at least to show that you at least have the best intentions with your craft.
There are some dummies out there.
There sure are.
All right. Well, Jobin, Judge Mentalist. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you on the show.
And I'm definitely checking out your YouTube channel.
Yeah, thanks.
I just loaded it up.
I know that we've been trying to work on this for quite some time.
It's been literally a year and a half because I think we started talking shortly after we started the podcast. So it's good to finally have you on and talk to you and cover this topic because it's definitely a topic I've wanted to talk about since we started, basically.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You wanna plug everything? I think you mentioned obviously websites, but plug away whatever you want to plug.
I mean, I guess the other thing that I'll put out there is that we didn't really talk about in this, but if people want to know more about my ongoing antics, travel, shows, things like that, as well as the antics of a friend of mine named Big Sexy.
Oh,
Big
sexy.
Big Sexy is a digital nomad, and a little over a year ago. Well, the decision was made a little over a year ago, but just about a year ago, he and his wife hopped on a one-way cruise ship across the Atlantic, and they're currently for a short period of time back in the States, but they have been hopping around Europe, working remotely, seeing the world. They've spent time in Spain, the UK, Romania, and everywhere in between.
Yeah, geez, he's been all over the damn place.
Yeah, we do a weekly podcast called Big Sexy Digital Nomad. It's basically anywhere that you'd get a podcast.
Yep.
Um,
One of our sister pods at scooppods.com.
That's right. Yeah, we're on there, and we do a lot of just kind of talking about what's going on wherever each of us are in the world. We get guest interviewers, get guests on there that are also travel people.
Mm-hmm.
You from time to time, I mean, it's very light, it's very filled with shenanigans, but from time to time there's some valuable, travel hacks and tips of the trade. We've had people who run, travel blogs, people who are actual digital nomads, people who are travel agents, and really everywhere in between is guests on there.
Yeah, you guys have definitely run the gamut as far as guests related to traveling. Yes.
And when Big Sexy doesn't hate people the way that I generally do. So his
something you share with us.
See, like, I don't even know if you could have him on a podcast that's named what yours is named.
Probably not.
I've asked he's got an ability to find the best in people and to draw good people to him in a way that few others that I've experienced do. So
good for him.
When he
absolutely,
when he's in foreign countries, he just finds people that are also traveling.
It's so weird that his ability to just go up to people and be like, "Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm Big Sexy. What's going on with you?"
And I would not have the ability to do that.
Yeah, he's a the face,
pro.
Nothing.
He looks like a nice guy. Like when you look at him, you just think like he's gonna be a nice guy.
and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So yeah, that's we do that weekly, and then he's got bonus episodes that are usually those interviews that drop on the weekends.
Yep.
But yeah, we've been
you
doing
guys
that
have a
for
Patreon?
A little over a year. Yeah.
Yep. Check that out. Yeah, I definitely recommend to anybody listening to check out Big Sexy Digital Nomad. Great podcast. Both of you are exceptional human beings, as all us scoops are.
Agreed.
So yeah, definitely check that out. BetweenTwoMinds.com and JudgeMentalist.com for Jobeth's stage shows. Also, a great look. I haven't gotten the chance to go live, but you have sent me many a clip of shows you've done.
Hey, we'll get one. Look, the thing I'm looking for, if anybody's interested in this that's listening, if you've got a school organization, if you've got a nonprofit, if you're looking for if you know somebody or you are looking for some way to raise funds for a worthwhile cause that's not the same as a GoFundMe or selling, cookie dough or those shitty ass pizza kits.
Discount
if you want
cards.
something that's really different, we've got a no risk fee structure. So nobody pays us any money up front to do these shows. We help you set up the ticket sales. I've got a guide that I continuously edit as I get new ideas for ways that you can move tickets, raise other money in the fundraiser. We get a percentage of the ticket sales and we cap that fee, and that fee caps depending on how much travel and whether we have to do lodging or stuff like that. So we make sure our costs are covered. There are no mystery fees or anything. Oh, and by the way, here's my hotel bill. No, that's all part of our calculation in where we cap the fee. And you can't lose, because a lot of these organizations, especially when we do school shows, they've already got access to the auditorium. They're not paying money for it. So there's really no output other than the effort to sell tickets and fill the room.
Mm-hmm.
And
which they're used to doing anyway. And in fact, that reminds me, Jobeth, we talked to our local Boys and Girls Club not long ago, and we're supposed to reach out to them around this time. So I'll get back in touch with them
Awesome, yeah.
to see if we can set that up, because that would be great to have you guys come here and do a show for our local Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, we'd love to. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's great finally having you.
Of course. I'd say any time, but we've proven that to be difficult. So
Very true. Thanks, Jobeth.
all right, be well.
Take care.
All right, guys. Well, we were so happy to finally have Judge Mentalist on our show, Jobeth. Joaquin, you got anything to add?
No, not really. I actually have nothing to say.
I love that. Again, we talked to Jobeth initially, and we were like, "Yeah, probably about a half hour," and we went like almost an hour. So it's great.
He went almost an hour.
Yeah,
he was good.
He gave us the content. We didn't.
He does shows. I mean,
he knows how to deliver the
has it.
entertainment. So thanks, guys. Please visit our website. You can leave us a message. You can send us an email. You can get that over at
atiwihy.com.
Yeah, that's it, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully this is out on a Friday. If it's out on a Saturday, you can still enjoy the rest of your weekend, right?
And exercise those critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Skills. Yeah, that's the word.
All right. Jobeth is such a good guy.
Yeah.
So is
He's nicer
sexy.
than his name. He's nicer than his name implies.
Oh, really?
I would think he'd be like either really pretentious or really douchey with a name like Jobeth.
Well, I'm not gonna tell him you said that. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this.
I didn't think he was. I'm not. My name's Joaquin, so I mean.
I know.
I sound like I should be deported.
Peace.
Later.